The year was 1963. Do you remember the music from 1963? Hi, I'm Mr. Mike. That's what the kids at church call me. And welcome to this episode of In My Musical Opinion, the channel where I go through every number one hit song according to the US Billboard Pop Charts from a year in rock and roll history. Tell you who recorded the song and how many weeks it remained in the number one position. And I always throw in a few interesting bits of musical trivia for each song, compliments of Wikipedia. Thank you, Wikipedia. But before we get into today's video, I hope you will give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and new subscribers to this channel are always welcome. This episode's wallpaper on my screen here to my left is from a top 10 revenue grossing movie from 1963. Can you guess the movie? I'll give you the answer at the end of the video. And one event that made the news that year happened on February 12th. Construction began on the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, Missouri. Some sources consider it the tallest human-made monument in the Western Hemisphere. Construction was completed on October the 28th, 1965, at an overall cost of only $13 million. The monument opened to the public on June the 10th, 1967. Have you ever seen or been inside the Gateway Arch? Leave your comments below. Curious minds need to know. Well, back to the music. Today I'll be going through the year 1963, and there are 21 number one hit songs in 63, with 4 of them at number one for only 1 week. Then stick around to the end to see which ones are, in my musical opinion, my top 5 hits from this year. And I know you'll have a top 5 too. I know Soccer Girl always does. Kicking off at number 1 for the year 1963 are the Tornadoes with the instrumental song Telstar. The Tornadoes were a British band, and this song was named after the Telstar communication satellite, which was launched into orbit on July the 10th, 1962. Telstar ended 62 as number 1 for 2 weeks and stayed at number 1 for 1 more week beginning in 63 for a total of 3 weeks. This next song is one of only 9 songs to become a number 1 hit by 2 different artists. The song is Go Away Little Girl, and the artist is Steve Lawrence. Donny Osmond also took the song to number 1 in September of '71. The song was written by Jerry Goffin and Carole King. The lyrics consist of a young man asking a young, attractive woman to stay away from him so that he will not be tempted to betray his steady girlfriend by kissing her. Oh, how faithful and romantic. Go Away Little Girl held the top spot for 2 weeks.
It's hurting me more each minute that you delay. When you are near.
The Rooftop Singers are our next number 1 group with their number 1 hit song, Walk Right In. The song is actually a country blues song written by musician Gus Cannon and originally recorded by Cannon's group, the Jug Stompers, in 1929. What a great name, Jug Stompers. Rooftop group member Eric Darling wanted the track to have a distinctive sound, so he and fellow group member Bill Svano wanted to use 12-string guitars. But they had trouble acquiring 12-string guitars. Darling had to order one from the Gibson Company. But in order to record the song with 2 12-string guitars, they had to wait for the company to build a second one for Bill, who was left-handed. But it was all worth the wait. Walk Right In remained at number 1 for 2 weeks. Our next number 1 for 1963 comes from the duet Ray Hildebrand and Jill Jackson. Have you ever heard of them? Probably not. You might know them as Paul and Paula, and their hit song is Hey Paula. The original recording of this song was released on the Lee Cam Records label, with the artists credited as Jill and Ray, their real names. But when the record became a success, it was picked up by Philip Records, which changed the billing to Paul and Paula. Hey Paula remained at number 1 for 3 weeks. The Four Seasons are back with their first number 1 of 1963, and the song is Walk Like a Man. The song was written by Bob Crewe and Bob Gaudio, who is the keyboard player for the Four Seasons. The song is sung from the perspective of a man whose girlfriend has been belittling him and who takes his father's advice to walk like a man and leave the relationship in order to preserve the son's dignity. That is sound advice. Walk Like a Man topped the charts in the US for 3 weeks. It's the weekend ending March 23rd, and we have Ruby and the Romantics with their number 1 hit song, Our Day Will Come. Al Stanton was the A&R director at Cap Records. He cut 2 versions of the song with Ruby and the Romantics, one with a mid-tempo arrangement and the other in a bossa nova style. The latter version, featuring a Hammond organ solo, was selected for release as a single. Good choice. Our Day Will Come stayed at number 1 for 1 week.
Our day will come if we just wait a while.
A new female group has our next number 1 hit song. The group is The Chiffons, and the song is He's So Fine. Do-lang, do-lang, do-lang. I have no clue what that's supposed to mean, but it brought the Chiffons a number 1 hit song. The Chiffons were originally a trio of schoolmates, lead singer Judy Craig, backed by Patricia Bennett and Barbara Lee. They were all enrolled at James Monroe High School in the Bronx in 1960. Later on in 1962, the group added a 4th member, Sylvia Peterson. I wonder if George Harrison ever heard this song. He's So Fine stayed in the number 1 spot for 4 weeks. Last year, we had Little Eva with The Locomotion. This year we have Little Peggy March with their 1963 hit song, I Will Follow Him. The music to this song was written by J.W. Stoll and Paul Morier, who later did the instrumental song Love Is Blue. British singer Petula Clark released an English, French, German, and Italian language versions of this song, but none were successful in the US. Little Peggy March's version, however, hit number 1 in 8 different countries, including Uruguay. I Will Follow Him remained at the number 1 spot for 3 weeks.
follow him. Ever since he touched my hand, I knew.
This next number one has lyrics that may be offensive to some. The artist is James Lewis McLeese. He's better known as Jimmy Soul. And the song is If You Want to Be Happy. Soul was born in North Carolina, and at the age of 7, he became a preacher. Yeah, you heard me right. And as a teenager, performed gospel music. He had only 2 songs to hit the Billboard Top 40, this song and another one titled Twistin' Matilda. The words, if you want to be happy for the rest of your life, never make a pretty woman your wife. So from my personal point of view, get an ugly girl to marry you. Hey, those were his words, not mine. If you want to be happy, stay at number 1, 2 weeks.
She'll always give you peace of mind. If you want to be happy for the rest of your life, never make a pretty woman your wife. So from my personal point of view, get an ugly girl to marry you.
When are you allowed to cry when you want to? When it's your party. And that's our next number 1. It's Leslie Gore with the song, It's My Party. The song lyrically portrays the discomfort of a teenage girl at her birthday party when her boyfriend, Johnny, disappears, only to return in the company of Judy, another girl who is wearing his ring, to indicate he has replaced the birthday girl as his new love interest. I hope this situation does not end up on a Dateline episode. It's My Party, stayed at number 1, 2 weeks.
You would cry too if it happened to you. Play all my records, keep dancing all night, but leave me alone.
It's now the middle of June of 1963, and our next number 1 is Sukiyaki by Japanese artist Kuo Sakamoto. The lyrics, which are sung in Japanese, tell the story of a man who looks up while he is walking so that his tears will not fall, with the verses describing his memories and feelings. The song grew to become one of the world's best-selling singles of all time, selling over 13 million copies worldwide. Sukiyaki spent 3 weeks at the number 1 spot. The title of our next number 1 is a phrase that I'll bet you have said at least one time in your lifetime. The group is the Essex, with the song Easier Said Than Done. The Essex were active duty members of the United States Marine Corps at the time, as was co-writer William Linton, who wrote the song at the request of Essex member Walter Vickers. Linton said the song's rhythm was inspired by the sound of the teletype machines in the communication office at Camp Lejeune. Thank you for your service, gentlemen. Easier said than done. Stayed at number 1 for 2 weeks.
Easier said than done. My buddies tell me fly to him, side to him, tell him I would die for him, and tell him he's
A new genre of music is about to emerge. Or maybe it's just a new sound. Or maybe it's been around for a while. It's the duo of Jan Berry and Dean Torrance, better known as Jan and Dean, with the song Surf City. The song was written by Jan Berry and a man we'll hear more about later, Brian Wilson. The Beach Boys manager at the time, Wilson's father, Murray Wilson, was reportedly irate about the song, believing that Brian had wasted a number 1 record which could have gone to his group, the Beach Boys. Brian later told Teen Beat, and I quote, "I was proud of the fact that another group had a number 1 track with a song I had written," end quote. Brian Wilson is also on background vocals on this track. Surf City spent 2 weeks at the top of the charts. Want to hear a song with great harmonies? Then just listen to the group The Times and their song, So Much in Love. This group was formed in Philadelphia, PA in 1956 as the Latineers by Donald Banks, who sang bass, Albert Berry, first tenor, Norman Burnett on baritone, and George Hilliard, second tenor. After a 4-year stint on the Philadelphia's club circuit, they recruited a new lead vocalist, George Williams, in 1960, and changed their name to The Times. A remake of this song was done in 1993 by the group All for One. The All for One version made it to number 5, but So Much in Love by The Times made it to number 1 and remained there for 1 week. This next artist strung out multiple hits over the 60s and 70s and 80s. But here in 1963, he has a number 1 hit song, Fingertips, Part 2. And that artist would be Stevie Wonder. But for this hit, he was known as Little Stevie Wonder. The song was recorded live at the Regal Theater in Chicago. The original song is called Fingertips and is 6 minutes and 40 seconds long. The song was divided into 2 parts. Fingertips Part 1 on the A side of the 45 and Fingertips Part 2 as the B side. The B side at 3 minutes and 9 seconds became the hit. Fingertips Part 2 held the top spot for 3 weeks. It's the end of August, and he's back. Who's back? My boyfriend's back. Well, not my boyfriend. It's the Angels and their hit song, My Boyfriend's Back. The track was originally intended as a demo for the Shirelles, but ended up being released as recorded by the Angels. The lyrics give a word of warning to a would-be suitor who, after being rebuffed by the female narrator of the song, spread nasty rumors accusing her of romantic indiscretions. Now the narrator declares her boyfriend is back in town, baby, and ready to settle the score, and she warns the rejected admirer, he better watch himself. My Boyfriend's Back remained at number 1 for 3 weeks. I believe this next artist likes to sing about colors. Last year he had a number 1 hit song with the color red. Here he is in 63 with the color blue, specifically Blue Velvet. Remember who the artist was? It's Bobby Vinton. The song was written and composed in 1950 by Bernie Wayne and Lee Morris. Tony Bennett released a version in 1951. The Clovers released a version in 1955, and the Statues released a version in 1960. But it was the Bobby Vinton version in 1963 that went all the way to the number 1 position. Blue Velvet remained at number 1 for 3 weeks.
Bluer than velvet were her eyes, warmer than May her tender sighs. Love was all.
It's the middle of October, and Jerry Gilmer and the Fireballs have the new number 1 song with Sugar Shack. The song was written by Keith McCormick. McCormick gave songwriting credit to his aunt, Beulah Faye Voss, after he asked her this question: "What are those tight pants that girls wear?" To which Aunt Beulah replied, "Leotards." He decided to use that word, leotards, in the song, thus giving songwriting credit to Auntie Beulah. The line says this: "There's this cute little girlie, she's a workin' there, a black leotard and her feet are bare." Wow. Probably would make me go back for more coffee, and I don't even drink it. Sugar Shack stayed at the #1 song for an impressive 5 weeks.
There's this cute little girlie, she's a working there. A black leotard and her feet are bare.
We're back with colors again. It's Nino Tempo and April Stevens with the song Deep Purple, and not to be confused with the British rock band Deep Purple. However, the rock band Deep Purple did name their band after this song. The song was written by pianist Peter DeRose. Paul Whiteman recorded and released the original version of the song way back in 1934 as an instrumental. The song was also recorded by Larry Clinton and his orchestra, Jimmy Dorsey, Guy Lombardo, Bing Crosby, Artie Shaw, and Adelaide Hall. But it was the duo of Nino Tempo and April Stevens who took it to the #1 spot. Deep Purple remained at #1 for 1 week. Next, we have Dale Houston and Grace Broussard, better known as Dale and Grace, with the hit song, "I'm Leaving It Up to You." An unfortunate claim to fame for this song was that it was #1 on the day President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And by coincidence, Dale and Grace were in Dallas on the day of the murder. The duo was scheduled to perform that night as part of Dick Clark's Caravan of Stars, and had waved to the president's motorcade from a vantage point near their hotel moments before the assassination. Needless to say, Dick Clark's Caravan of Stars was canceled that night. It was a sad day indeed. I'm Leaving It Up to You remained at #1 for 2 weeks. So, what song ends our list of #1s for 1963? Let's end this year on a Catholic note. I'll give you a hint. It's a French language song written and performed by Belgian singer Janine Deckers, who is better known as Sister Smile or the Singing Nun. The song is Dominique, a song about Saint Dominic, a Spanish-born priest and founder of the Dominican order, of which she was a member. Her name was Sister Luc Gabriel. Rumor has it that some of the monetary proceeds from this song went to buy the convent a brand new 1963 Studebaker Avante. Hey, it's just a rumor. Dominique ended 1963 as #1 for 4 weeks.
Ni chameau, ni diligence, il parcourt l'Europe à pied, Scandinavie ou Provence dans la sainte pauvreté.
So, there you go. The 21 #1 hit songs from the US Billboard Pop Charts from the year 1963. And as with any year in rock and roll history, there are plenty of other songs that were out that we loved even more than these #1 hits. 3 songs from 1963 that I really liked that did not make it to #1 are Blame It on the Bossa Nova by Edie Gourmet, only made it to #7. Surfin' USA by the Beach Boys only made it to number 3. And Heat Wave by Martha and the Vandellas only made it to number 4. Unfortunately, these 3 songs never made it to the number 1 position. So, how do I rate them? Well, here's my answer every episode on the memories, the music, the lyrics, and anything else that I might like about the song or the artist. And for me, every song can be based on something different. So, which ones, in my musical opinion, are my top 5 1963 favorites? For me, there were a lot of great number 1 songs this year. So here you go. At my number 5 is I'm Leaving It Up to You by Dale and Grace. This song is smooth. It has a simple chord pattern. But what I like most about this song are the harmonies between Dale and Grace. And I believe harmonies were something that defined the early 60s songs. I'm Leaving It Up to You by Dale and Grace as my number 5.
You decide what you gonna do. Now do you want my love?
Next, and my number 4 is He's So Fine by the Chiffons. The song lyrically is so 60s. Doodle-lang, doodle-lang, doodle-lang. Oh, background lyrics that mean absolutely nothing. But they make the song a winner. And we are probably all aware of the copyright controversy between this song and George Harrison's My Sweet Lord. My sweet Lord, doodle-lang, doodle-lang, doodle-lang. So how did that turn out? Well, Harrison was found guilty of subconscious plagiarism and had to pay $1,599,987 of the earnings from My Sweet Lord to Bright Tunes, the production company for the Chiffons. Well, regardless of the controversy, it's He's So Fine as my number 4.
Doodle-lang, doodle-lang, he's so fine. Doodle-lang, doodle-lang, wish he were mine. Doodle-lang, doodle-lang, that handsome boy over there.
Moving on to my number 3 is Easier Said Than Done by the Essex. Is it a good song? Yes, it is. I like the lyrics and I like the music. But the reason this song is my number 3 is because of a great memory. Our family had a 1955 Chevy Bel Air which did not have a radio. In 1963, my dad traded it in on a 1962 Chevy Biscayne. And this new car did have a radio. The day after he bought it, my dad and I went out for a drive. I asked him if I could turn on the radio. And he said, yes. It was a tube radio with straight line tuning, no push buttons. I tuned it to the local top 40 radio station. And the first song that was played was Easier Said Than Done by the Essex. And that's why Easier Said Than Done is my number 3. Another great dad memory.
Things to him and tell him he's the one. Deep in my heart, I know it, but it's so hard to show.
My number 2 song for 1963 is My Boyfriend's Back by the Angels. The opening line with the hand claps and drums set the tone for the entire song, and I love it. He went away, and you hung around and bothered me every night. When I wouldn't go out with you, you said things that weren't very nice. You know, I smell trouble a-brewin'. I wonder if her boyfriend is like Steven Seagal or more like Rick Moranis. Don't know. The Angels consisted of 3 beautiful ladies, sisters Phyllis and Barbara Albert and Peggy Santiglia. Oh, they were easy on the eyes. Maybe that's why My Boyfriend's Back is my number 2.
Hey, la, my boyfriend's back. See him coming, better cut out on the double. Hey, la, my boyfriend's back.
My favorite number one song of 63 is Walk Like a Man by the Four Seasons. I love the first two chords of this song, A, D, A, D. But more than that, I love what these lyrics are saying. Son, step up, be a man. You have testosterone, use it. Well, my own father said, give her up, don't bother. The world isn't coming to an end. I wonder how many marriages would have never happened if sons would have listened to the great advice like this from their dads. And go watch the movie Heart and Souls starring Robert Downey Jr. They sing this song in that movie. It's great. And you can thank me later. Walk Like a Man as Mr. Mike's number one out of all the number ones for 1963. Again, there you have it, the 21 number one hit songs from the year 1963, and in my musical opinion, my top 5 from that year. What were your top 5 songs from this year? Let me put it to you this way. If you could bury only 5 records in the ground for future generations, hundreds of years from now to hear, which 5 45s would you put in that hole? Leave your favorites in the comments below. I do love reading about the songs that are your favorites. Well, the wallpaper on my PC here behind me is from the 1963 movie It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, directed by Stanley Kramer. This movie came in number 3 for the highest revenue grossing movie for 1963. The number 1 movie that year was Cleopatra. Well, I hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, revisiting the number 1 hit songs and a movie from 1963. Come back again when I take us through another year in rock and roll history, look at every number 1 hit song from that year, and then, in my musical opinion, give you my top 5. Well, this is Mr. Mike, and I will see you next time in our next exciting episode of In My Musical Opinion. Keep rocking.